Welcome to the K20 Center's Zoom Into Your Career video series. These online career expos give students a way to explore many interesting careers and learn about their career options from volunteer professionals. Tyler Sublett has worked in commercial construction for 6 years as a project manager at JE Dunn Construction. Tyler has worked on projects on OU's campus, downtown Oklahoma City, and the University of Central Oklahoma, among others.
Okay, so I'll just jump right in. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about me. She's already told you a few things, but my technical title is Senior Project Engineer. I always like to tell people that's a little disclaimer, does not mean I'm an engineer. That's just the way they title it. I don't know why they do that, but essentially I'm a project manager. My background is I do have a degree from University of Oklahoma in construction science. And like they said, I've worked about 6 years in commercial construction. I actually previously worked in education, kind of made an interesting switch. And prior to that, I worked in a bunch of residential construction. So had a little bit of everything when it comes to construction. So just going to jump in and tell you guys what does a project manager really do in construction? And, you know, the first thing I always get from people is, hey, you work in construction, so you're just out there, you know, with a hammer or a shovel all day, right? And the answer is no. And that's just, you know, there are people that are out there with the hammers and the screws and you know, out there doing the work. But there's a whole nother side that a lot of people don't know about. And that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about. So I'm on what we call the office side or the project manager side. And what I really do is I manage financial aspects of a project. So, you know, when we are everywhere from when we very first start a project to when we go all the way through a project, I'm making sure we properly have the money to do it and that we are pricing anything that the owners want to add or change. And, you know, and a lot of this stuff, you see these great, awesome buildings, but it does take a lot of money to build them. So there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of managing it to make sure that money is getting paid to the correct people and getting used correctly. Another part of it I do is I get to help write contracts. So we use what we call subcontractors, or sometimes call them trade partners. So I work for what's called a general contractor. So we more or less manage the construction process. So when you see a big project out there, I'm not the one that's actually out there, you know, up in the tower crane. I'm more doing behind the scenes stuff. And then we have what we call subcontractors that we write contracts to, who are specialties in their particular trade. So we work with them, with electricians, with plumbers, anything like that, painters. So that's a big part of it, is writing contracts. We manage material procurement. So again, when you see these awesome big buildings, you know, not everything just shows up at one time. You know, you have to start at the very bottom when you just have basically a big pile of dirt, and then you end up with this great, awesome building. But to get there, you have to make sure all the materials come, get there on time, get there in the right order. You know, I mean, some things are pretty obvious. You can't put a roof on if you don't have a building, but, you know, there's other things you got to really make sure they're coming at the right time. I do a lot of work in hospitals, so that gets very interesting and strategic because they have a lot of hospital equipment that, you know, you might not be thinking about it, but because it's such a specialty equipment, it might take it 6 or 9 months for it to arrive. So I really look at that. One thing I like to point out, because again, a lot of people, I've heard all the time, is, you know, why'd you get a degree just to go stand out in the hot or the cold all day? And that's not real true. I'm usually in my office. I'm on the job site a lot of times, but I have an office in our job trailer. So I go out there when I want to, and I don't have to go out there if I don't want to. So that's the part I do like, you know, is that when it's 110 degrees outside, I'm not having to be out there unless I really want to, or if it's, you know, 10 degrees outside, same thing. So, but I get to be right out there. I can go walk out, go look at the job site and see what's going on. Another big part of what I do is I meet with owners and architects. Again, you know, these buildings don't just happen. There's a lot of planning, a lot of processes, and, you know, owners want a lot of things, but they have to pick what works within their budgets. So we work with the architect to help them determine what's the best thing for them and what can you get with how much money you're wanting to spend. So just to kind of tell you guys what it's like in the life of a daily responsibilities of a project manager. On a typical day, I will get there, and I will tell you guys that, you know, we start pretty early. 7 o'clock is about normal time, and we usually work till anywhere from 3:30 to 4:30 or 5 o'clock, just depending on the day. But I'll usually get to site and catch up with the job site superintendent and see what he has going on and see if there's anything that needs to be addressed. I'm usually talking with the owner, the architects, subcontractors, seeing if they have any issues or anything that needs to be taken care of, following up with them. I'll spend a lot of time looking at potential changes. Again, you get these big, awesome buildings or even small buildings, you never know what's going to happen. You may get in there and they decide they want a room laid out a different way, or they want to add some more plugs, or something as simple as they decided they want to put a TV on that wall. Well, you can't just magically put a TV up there. You got to have power to it. You got to have something to support the TV. And so if that wasn't originally planned for, then we have to say, okay, we can do that, but here's what you'll have to pay for and what it'll have to change. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of material procurement and checking it out, and making sure it's going to arrive on time, making sure they really got the orders in. Just some other interesting information about my field. I'll just tell you guys that it's not a very popular. It's not something that a lot of people think about, just because there is that misconception that you don't need to go to college to have a degree to do what I do. And there are particular jobs within our field that you don't have to have a college degree. But when you get into the more upper level leadership management, a lot of times they will require a college degree. So one thing I will tell you guys, if this is something that interests you, I do a lot of math and a lot of finance. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost more closer to an accountant than a project manager. So having the math and financial background has really helped me. Of course, anything that's related to engineering helps, because you just need to know how a building goes together. That's not all of it, but obviously you got to know the sequences and stuff. But a lot of that resorts back to math and measuring and being able to make sure you have a good budget. The construction science program at OU, they have 100% job placement after graduation. That was one of a big plus for me whenever I was looking at where I wanted to go in the program. And it's nice to know that when I graduate school, there's pretty much a guaranteed job. There's way more construction jobs out there than there are people graduating. When we go to my company goes to the career fairs at OU and we try to recruit students, I can tell you there's usually around 50 companies there. Their average graduating class is about 30. So, if you can do the math there, you have more companies than you have people graduating. So it's a great career to consider, just because there's such a need. Both OU and OSU have a construction program. And one thing that I think was really cool is that they assist you with getting an internship over the summer that's a paid internship. So even when you're in school, you can be working over the summer, getting great experience, but also making some money while you're doing it. Where a lot of other degrees and things that you look at, they have internships, but you're not getting paid. So that's a great thing. Another thing that's a big highlight, the average starting salary out of school is, I'm going to say it's an average of $55,000 to $65,000, which, looking at a lot of other opportunities, that's pretty good right out of school. There's a lot of growth potential. Some other jobs just within our industry. So there's a site superintendent. They are going to be more the ones in the field doing the work, making sure they're coordinating it, checking it. We have quality specialists who check the quality of our work and make sure we're doing what is specified, what is supposed to be done, and that it's done correctly and it's going to withstand fault. We have project coordinators who help us with a lot of the documentation, paperwork side. And then MEP specialists is just another thing out there that there's a huge need for this in our industry, and just not a lot of people look at it. And MEP stands for mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So that's all the stuff that really makes your building work. If you don't have the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, you just have a big box that doesn't do anything. So we have people that they are experts in those fields, and so they can help us determine what it is, what needs to be put in. I wanted to show you guys just a couple of these projects that I've been fortunate to work on. So this first one is a picture. This is at OU's campus. If you've ever been down there, this is called Cross Village. The first picture there on the left is kind of a cool one. This is on the 4th of July. We have a camera set up that would capture about every 10 to 15 minutes, would take a picture so you could see progress. And that one was cool because we got to see it right when the fireworks going off. But then the final product is there on the right. This opened up about a year and a half ago. I'll show you just a couple other pictures of some cool projects that I have been a part of. And the first one up there in the top left corner is called St. Anthony's. That's up on the north side of Oklahoma City, if you're familiar with that. That was one of the first projects I ever worked on. Mercy Cancer Center is right there in the top middle. We built that one from ground up. The far right is a project I haven't been very involved with, but it's a very, very neat project. If you've driven by the state capitol, we are doing the exterior renovation of it. And so that is a really neat, not something you get to see every day. The bottom left corner is a UCO called North Hamilton Annex. If you've been up on their campus, we basically added a big portion to the backside of their basketball arena. The middle picture is the BOK Plaza Tower. This is the tower, if you're familiar with Oklahoma City, next to Devon Tower. It's a 27-story tower that we built. And then now we are in the process of going back out and building out the floors as tenants become available. And then the bottom right one is UCO, the new Sports Performance Center. It's right there in the back end of their football field. Beautiful building, really cool to see. And then just a few things before I open up for questions. I always just tell you guys is this construction is something I would have not originally thought of out of school. I actually worked for a while and then decided I wanted to go back to school and do something different. And construction was my choice. And it's been a great career, and it is definitely not something people really think of at the very beginning, but there's so many opportunities out there. It's fun because every day is different. If you like change, you're on a project for anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, and then you're on a new project. So it's something different all the time. It's constantly changing. It's fast paced. So, but yeah, I would love to answer some questions if you guys have them.
What is the largest project that you have ever managed?
So I will tell you the largest one I have actually managed was about $13 million. And it was actually that BOK tower that we were looking at on the presentation. It was a build out of 6 floors. The largest project I've been involved with, I wasn't the top manager, but I've managed what we call scopes. So I was over I was basically over all the interior build out and all of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. That one was $175 million. My company in Oklahoma City has done a $250 million building, which was that BOK Plaza. I know as a company as a whole, we actually are doing a project in Austin that's about to pretty close to $1 billion, which is not something you see every day, but that is, they can get up there. And I've also managed something as small as about $80,000. So there's quite a range, but yeah, I guess it was, there's all different sizes of projects out there, but the biggest one I have directly been involved with was $175 million.
Well, that's a lot. All right.
Yes.
We have a question about the salary for someone with your experience level. So where you're at right now.
Sure. Yeah. So when you get made a project manager, and I'll just give you a little caveat because there's so many different ways you can look at it. Because I work directly in commercial construction. We also have people that do more road and bridges. Then there's, residential side. So there's different aspects. So you're going to see a little bit different salary. But when you've been a project manager, you've been out of school 5-6 years, I would say it's kind of a big range, but I would say you're looking probably $75,000 up to $100,000 plus. And it just depends on what experience you come with.
Thank you. And then a follow-up. They're very, very interested in salary. So another question from that school is also, so what about when you're first starting out? What does salary look like?
Sure. And I'll tell you, I'm still pretty involved with the construction science program at OU. So we submit information to them, and then so do other companies, so they can kind of have an average. So right now, the average coming out, if you get hired from OU, is $62,000. And again, there's some stuff that goes into that. If you stay in Oklahoma, it's going to be probably one number. If you're willing to go to a large metroplex like Dallas, Austin, Houston, that number will climb, but it's obviously a little more expensive to live there. So that is one thing I guess I kind of will throw out there is that, I know we're all here in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma City is doing a ton of work right now. So there's so much work in Oklahoma, and that's something that's really cool. Is a lot of people I know when they go in the program, they're thinking, oh, I'm going to have to go to Dallas. I'm going to have to go to a big city, but there's so much stuff going. I'm working on projects in Ardmore and Ada. So there's projects all over. And, that salary range is for Oklahoma, I would say starting about 62.
All right, heavy question from wants to know, have you ever had to fire anyone?
Have I ever had to fire anyone? I have not within my company. Now, I will tell you guys, because we work with subcontractors, and I have had to remove one of them from my job site. And I'm sure if I'm telling you that, you guys want to probably know a little bit of the story. I can basically just tell you that they were just not showing up. And when they showed up, we are required. Safety is a very big deal in construction. You want to keep people safe, and there's procedures for safety, and they were not following their safety procedures. Didn't want to wear hard hats. They didn't want to wear glasses, and we kind of gave them a few chances. They did not want to listen. And so we just basically said, okay, you're not welcome on our job site anymore. And we removed them, and we brought in another contractor to complete their work. So unfortunately, that happens a little more often than you would like to, but that does happen.
All right. Yeah, remember that, guys, next time you're in a lab or science class and your teacher tells you to put on those safety goggles.
Yes.
How many projects have you worked on?
I've worked on, I would say in the range of 15 to 20, and kind of like I said previously, it can be, sometimes I'm on one project. I was on one project for 2 years, so that kind of, makes it where you're not on a lot of projects. But then I've switched over now, and I'm doing some smaller projects where I might have a couple of them at one time, and they may only be 6 months long. So in 1 year, you may be on 5 or 6 projects. So, it just depends on what you want to do. But I'd say, yeah, probably around 15 projects is what I've done.
What's the hardest part of your job?
I would say the hardest part is just with construction, it's so fast and things are changing so quick. And, it's just making sure you're on top of stuff all the time. Because if, I'll just give you an example. If we're building a building and I think, oh, the windows are going to come in a month, it's no big deal, and I just forget about it. Well, then a month rolls around, we're ready to install windows, and I call the people and I say, hey, those windows are ready, right? Can you ship them out? We're ready for them. And they go, oh, we haven't even ordered those. That's something that happens a lot, and that's kind of a big scale thing, but it's just, there's so many things to keep track of because it's such a big, these buildings are so big. And that's why, luckily, if we get on a larger project, they split it up a little bit. So you're not having to look over so much, but it's just keeping up with everything. And then, we love working for our owners because they're, what makes our business, but sometimes they will not think about things. And, a great example is working in a hospital. We'll build something, and then they'll have the doctors come in who are actually going to use the space, and they'll say, oh, hey, I don't like that. I don't like that there. I need to move this here, and I need to do that. So you've done all this work, and it looks beautiful, and then you're having to change it last minute. So just keeping track of that, trying to stay ahead of those, so that makes it kind of difficult. But there's a lot of challenging aspects. Keeping people safe is another one. People that want to get it done quickly, or people that just don't care, but you have to constantly remind them to be safe and that we don't want anybody to get hurt. So I hope that answered your question. If I had to say one thing, though, it's just keeping track of all the moving parts.
Wants to know, what made you get into construction or choose this career field?
Sure. So that one, I started working, my dad was a firefighter when I was growing up, but he had a side job working on rental properties, and he would always drag me out there with him. So from a young age, I was, either just helping him carry trash or switch out a door, something like that. That kind of piqued my interest. And then when I was right out of high school, and I was kind of working part-time while I was going to school, and had a random connection for somebody that built a house. And this was not a typical house. It was a very, very, very large house. It was a couple $1 million house. And he needed somebody to just be on the site and help him out and kind of help manage it. And I did that and got to see how it really goes together. And I will say probably one of my favorite things about working in construction is getting to see something go from an idea on a piece of paper to a final product. And once I got to really actually be a part of that, even though it was just on a house, it made me realize, hey, I like this, and I really like construction, and I looked into my options. And so, yeah, it just really kind of started at a young age, and, liking to build things, and it's a challenge, and I like to be challenged. So.
All right. Kind of jumping off that, I'm going to switch to a question about what's your favorite project that you've worked on, because that kind of goes nicely with what you just said.
Sure. So I would say if I had to pick one, it would be the OU Cross Village project that I put a picture up on there. A lot of that is just because I got to be on that one from the very, very beginning to the very, very end. Also, because I went to OU, there's a little bit of pride of getting to build something on the campus that I went to. And I live here in Norman, so a lot of times when I'm driving just through campus, it's really cool to look over and see that and say, wow, I was a part of that. That building really has my stamp on it because I was there and I got to help it. So it's been my favorite one, and it's just one I like to brag about and very proud of.
Right. I'm going to combine a few questions. I think most of these are from maybe a few from other schools, but about college and scholarships and things like that. So if you would just talk to students for a few minutes about what degrees could they get for this career, what degree did you get, and then also are there scholarships for things like project management?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so like I was said a little earlier, there is a degree program at OU and there is a degree program at OSU. OU falls under the College of Architecture. So my degree was called Construction Science. OSU's actually falls in the College of Engineering. It really doesn't change a whole lot, but they're both really good programs. We have people from my company from both. So I chose OU. One big reason just was live here in Norman, but their construction program is, it's a standard 4-year program. And I will tell you for OU, there's a ton of scholarships available. There's also obviously just scholarships for OU, but then once you get into the actual construction program, there's a lot of scholarships available. And I was fortunate enough to get a handful of those. And so it's great when you're done and you graduate, you're not really worried about student loans or anything like that because there is so many scholarships available. And there's outside scholarships. The construction industry as a whole offers a lot. We have, for example, my company offers scholarships to, I think we do like 3 a year for people going to college. There's organizations around Oklahoma City. There's one called AGC, which stands for the Association of General Contractors. They hand out quite a few scholarships every year. So they're tied to OU and OSU, but you can apply for them and get those. And then just even within the program, there's quite a few. So I would say there's a lot of scholarships available. The program, you get to do a lot. I will say one of my favorite things about that program is it's a small, close-knit program. So I knew every professor on a first name basis. They knew me. Once, you're done with some of your intro classes, I never had a class that had more than 25 people. It's a real one-on-one type of a setup, and you're really getting to know people. Great program. I'm still very close with a lot of my professors. A lot of construction industry professionals go back and talk to the classes, so they're very involved. That's how I even got hooked up with my company. Who's now one of my bosses, came to talk to my class, and I had asked a few questions, and he said, "Hey, do you have a resume? We're looking for interns this summer," and that's how I got connected. There's also, like I said, a career fair that brings in, 50 plus companies for people looking, and they're looking for interns, they're looking for full time. So there's lots of good opportunity and lots of scholarships out there for this.
Next question, a really interesting one. Are you in a labor union, and would you recommend joining one if you have a construction job?
So that's actually a great question. And I will tell you the answer there depends on where you want to work. If you want to work in Oklahoma City, union is not very big here. So I am not a part of a union. The only trades in this area that really even have a union are the plumbers, the electricians have one, mechanical sheet metal have one. They're pretty small. And then there is a carpenters union. But Oklahoma is just not very big on unions when it comes to construction. I will tell you, so my company's headquarters is in Kansas City. And if we do any work there, they're very, very large unions. So almost everybody that works up there is in a union. So it really just depends where you're looking to work. But as far as Oklahoma goes, I would say not very many people are in them. I'm not a part of one, so you don't have to be a part of one to get in. And really, in Oklahoma, it's just not set up to help out very much yet. I'm not going to say they may not be eventually, but at this time, there's just not really a union presence.
Do you have fun with your job? Like, is your job fun? And I'll pair that with, are you able to work whenever you want? So kind of what's your schedule like and your enjoyment
Sure.
of your job?
So I'll start with the fun, and I'll say yes. And there's definitely times that it's stressful. When you're trying to finish buildings, we're all on timelines. You think about the schools that you're sitting in. If we build a school, it's got to be done by the time school starts, no matter what. And so if there's a delay or if it's raining or something like that, it doesn't matter. We still have to get it done. So it can get stressful, but we have fun when we do to help offset that. And I'm fortunate my company really pushes what we call is work-life balance. They want us to be able to, kind of the work hard but play hard mentality. When you're at work, you want to go hard and play hard, but whenever you're not, we have fun, and we do a lot of events together outside of the office. We have summer get-togethers. There's a lot of opportunity for fun. And when you're on a large team, sometimes you just have fun. We would do luncheons every so often in our job trailer just to kind of change it up. So I do have fun. I would say from time frame management, it's one thing about construction is you kind of have to work when the work's going on. So that's why I was saying a lot of times we start around 7, just depends, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later, and we usually work till 3:30, 4:30, 5 o'clock. With what I do, I don't have to be on site all the time, so I do work from our main office sometimes. There's been a few times where I've been able to work from home, but for the most part, I'm on site working while the job's open. If you're in more of a field leadership role, like a superintendent, you have to be there when the work's going on. That's basically your job, is to manage them and to watch them and make sure it's all getting done correctly. So a little bit of it depends on exactly which route you went, but you're not a ton of flexibility, but it is nice because you can pretty much just work when the sun's up. So there's not like a 24/7 thing, but yeah.
All right. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have. We have so many more questions. I have 23 new messages marked in the chat feature. So
Oh,
you
wow.
guys are awesome. So many questions about this career field. If you would like more information about jobs in architecture, construction, possibly if you want to reach out to the mentoring team at the K-20 Center, we can talk to Tyler and see if he can maybe answer a few more questions for you at a later time. And we also have other professionals in the same field, so we can put you in connection with people, or we can try to get you answers to your questions. Just let your teachers, your counselors know, and they can contact our mentoring team here at the K-20 Center, and we'll do our best to help you out.